Buon pomeriggio a tutte e a tutti e benvenuti a questo nuovo appuntamento di Le Lingue Live. Probabilmente qualcuno di voi mi avrà già vista in altre occasioni analoghe, diciamo, ma mi presento rapidamente. Io sono Oriana Mascali e lavoro come redattrice per Ristory Languages. Oggi però sono qui in qualità di moderatrice di questo incontro a cui tutti voi vi siete iscritti. Qualche informazione tecnica prima di cominciare. Come sapete staremo insieme per circa un'ora, nel corso della quale i nostri due relatori, che a breve vi introduco, porteranno avanti la loro presentazione e voi avrete l'opportunità, se volete, di formulare eventuali domande, dubbi, curiosità nella chat di YouTube. Ci ritaglieremo poi qualche minuto alla fine dell'incontro per cercare di rispondere al maggior numero possibile di domande che sono arrivate da voi. Veniamo però al cuore di questo webinar. Appunto, come vi dicevo, probabilmente qualcuno mi avrà già visto introdurre la professoressa Silvia Chini, anche diciamo alla luce di una nostra collaborazione editoriale che ormai va avanti da tanti anni. La saluto.
Buonasera a tutti, ciao Oriana.
Quindi ho il piacere di essere qui oggi di nuovo e devo dire che è un piacere particolare perché l'argomento dell'incontro di oggi è particolarmente interessante. Come sapete, infatti, nel 2025 ricorre il 250° anniversario della nascita di Jane Austen, autrice che mi sta particolarmente a cuore, come immagino a molte e molti di voi, e abbiamo deciso proprio come casa editrice di dedicare un incontro proprio a questa figura letteraria importantissima. Io non vi faccio ulteriori spoiler su quello che verrà detto nel corso appunto di questo incontro. Ringrazio la professoressa Silvia Chini, che oggi è qui insieme a Leonard un suo collega, quindi un altro docente che saluto. Eccolo, buongiorno.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon. Vi lascio quindi alla loro presentazione e noi ci riaggiorniamo poi alla fine dell'incontro con le vostre domande. Grazie mille e buon incontro a tutte e a tutti.
So thank you, Oriana, and welcome everybody. I'm really happy to be here to speak about Jane Austen. But before we start speaking about Jane Austen and the possibilities of bringing Jane Austen back to life, okay, with our students, we'd like to ask you what you associate with Jane Austen. Because, you know, when we speak about VIPs, when we speak about really popular writers, there's always this, you know, slippery slope, okay? And we would like you to give your opinion. So as you can see, there's the QR code there, and you can scan the QR code with your mobile phone, and you will see that we've prepared for you just a couple of questions. And the first one is, how do you feel when speaking about Jane Austen? Do you feel happy? Do you feel relaxed? Do you feel excited? So you just pin it, okay? You click on what you think is your, you know, are your feelings when you speak about this author. Because sometimes we're happy to speak about very important people. Sometimes we're stressed because the topics are really interesting and important and timeless, as we said in the title of our webinar. So you're almost relaxed, 6, 7, 10, relaxed, great. So you really like Jane Austen. 12, 13, great. Okay. Oh, good. Somebody's stressed. I feel stressed sometimes because, you know, you speak about a very important person and the topics covered are generally quite important topics, even nowadays for our students. 12, happy, great, but 23, relaxed. 24, wow, great, relaxed. Thank you. Thank you for joining that. I'm really happy because it means that we can speak about a lot of different possibilities, a lot of different activities in this webinar, in this hour we have together. 24, excited as well, good. I agree with you. Partially, I would say, agree with you. But mainly happy and relaxed. 25, relaxed. Thank you. So I have another question for you. Can you write, please, 3 words that come into your mind when I say Jane Austen? What do you associate Jane Austen with? The title of one of her novels, some topics covered, some really popular characters, or, for example, I don't know, some feelings or Thank you. Elegance, relaxed, okay, romance. I would say gossip and rumors. Okay, love, okay, prejudice, thank you. Irony, that's great. We're going to speak about that. Relationships, thank you. Wedding, strong, that's great. Mr. Darcy, okay, some important characters. Tea party, okay. Wedding, relationship, adventure. I agree with you. Girl power, that's great. That's a good bridge to link Jane Austen with Educazione Civica or whatever. Women's strength, misunderstandings. That's great. Thank you. Regency, okay. Independence, love story, Elizabeth, okay. How not to mention Elizabeth. Pride and Prejudice, Emma, thank you. Some really, really important and popular titles. Bath, okay. There's a festival now in Bath to celebrate the anniversary. I'm sure you've heard about it. Romanticism, okay. Women condition, relaxed, English companion, feminism. That's good. Thank you. So, as you look at this word cloud that we've formed together, you've certainly noticed that there are a lot of themes, a lot of topics covered by Jane Austen, and these are timeless topics. They're still relevant. They still matter today. So the question is, going back to our presentation, the question is, why does Jane Austen still matters? Okay, why does she still matter? We could speak for hours, okay, to answer this question. She basically changed the world of fiction forever. She influenced authors such as Virginia Woolf, okay, not to mention the countless adaptations. I'm sure you have in mind some films and some movies of her works. And also the banknote with Jane Austen on it. So as every author, in every author, there are both engaging things and difficult aspects in dealing with Jane Austen in class. Her language is rich and also the development of her characters. But on the other hand, her novels spark debate on, for example, gender roles, class, marriage, and moreover, the historical context blends with modern society. This is the reason why in the first part of this webinar, my colleague and friend Leonard will give you an introduction, a brief introduction on Jane Austen, the author, and the historical background. And in the second part of this webinar, I will try and give you some ideas on how to work with Jane Austen in class, to link Jane Austen to real life, something that still matters to our students. So please, Leonard, you can go ahead with your slides and you can explain something about Jane Austen. Thank you.
Okay. Are my slides showing?
Yes.
There we are. Okay. No, they're not showing. There I am. Okay. So, who was Jane Austen? Well, we'll start with a little brief introduction. She's loved mainly as a guide to fashionable life in the Regency period, as we know, but her own vision of her task was radically different, as we'll see later. She was born in 1775 in the small village of Steventon in Hampshire. It's just down there. You can see the arrow. Her father was an Anglican clergyman, and even though they had reasonably high social status, they were not particularly well off. She mostly lived in the country with her sister Cassandra, and the novel was her chosen weapon in the struggle to reform humanity during the time when women were expected to marry well, not write books, not to be an integral part of literature. The house was always filled with books and debate, and because her mother also wrote poems, and of course, and quite witty poems, and by the time she was a teenager, Jane Austen was already writing hilarious stories full of oddball characters, parodies, and heroines. In an era when women weren't supposed to have opinions, Jane Austen began crafting the novels that would change literature forever. We mentioned the historical context twice, so it's time to dive into the period that goes now from 1775 to 1817. So here's a little bit of a rundown here. Between those years, 1775 and 1817, England was undergoing major changes socially. Politically and economically, this period included the Georgian era, the American War of Independence was happening, the French Revolution, and the rise and fall of Napoleon. So there was an enormous amount of global upheaval, and along with that, there was the tension, a lot of tension and fear. On top of this was the England Industrial Revolution, which was reshaping the economy and was creating a growing divide, once again, between rural traditions and urban progress. Okay. Socially, class and gender roles were rigid. Women had limited rights and few options outside marriage. The upper and middle classes followed strict rules of behavior and reputation, which Jane Austen criticizes in her novels. She never married, although she did receive proposals. One she accepted briefly, because like the protagonists of her novels, she didn't want to trade freedom for a boring life of comfort. We can state that she chose pen and paper over a husband. Not a bad deal in many cases. As I said before, she lived with her sister Cassandra, who was her lifelong confidant, and together they also moved around southern England after their father's death. So, in this context and in this movement, she observed the world around her and started asking questions such as, who had the power and who had not? Who had to marry for money and who could afford to marry for love? And with these questions in mind, she used words as weapons to describe her world. As we said before, she was perfectly aware of how a woman's social standing depended on marriage, and such awareness is reflected in her plots. Jane Austen's heroines have to face the conflict between their feelings and the need to conform to social conventions. Her novels seem to support the idea that appropriate behavior, respectful of social rules, should prevail over romantic enthusiasm. She completed 6 novels: Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, Mansfield Park, Emma, Northanger Abbey, and Persuasion. And in each one of these, it seems that Jane Austen is writing for us. It doesn't matter if she's describing families, writing about declarations of love, or juicy gossip. The protagonists of her novels always welcome the reader with a conspiratorial wink. And this unique brand of humor is just one of the many interesting characteristics of her satire. She dismissed the sentimental style of writing that was so popular at the time. The characters often behave awkwardly. Sometimes they're arrogant and find humor in all of the hypocrisy of the time. In Pride and Prejudice, Mr. Bennet perfectly explains this way of writing, joking to his favorite daughter, "For what do we live but to make sport of our neighbors and laugh at them in our turn?" But as I said before, Jane Austen fully understands the practical importance of maintaining appearances. In Mansfield Park, one of the characters says, "I would have everybody marry if they can do that properly. I do not like to have people throw themselves away." Speaking about themes and topics, Jane Austen's novels explore love, marriage, social status, and much more. Love is, according to her, a complex interplay between feelings and practical considerations. Her novels approach love and marriage from different angles. In Pride and Prejudice, she explores the role of social prejudice. And in Emma, she shows the dangers of misunderstanding romantic situations. At the same time, she portrays strong-willed, intelligent female protagonists like Elizabeth Bennet, Marianne Dashwood, and Emma. Through her characters, she criticized the limitations imposed on women in Regent society, and she explores the possibility for women to pursue independence. Why does she still matter? Love and marriage, social status, morality, self-realization, and personal growth. These are perfectly understood as universal themes that still resonate with readers today. As a result, Jane Austen's novels are still super relevant. Of course, Regency England was a lot different, but in modern society, people struggle with many of the themes Jane Austen wrote about: class and privilege, self-discovery, morality, and of course, romance.
So, as it always happens with VIPs like Shakespeare, Jane Austen, James Joyce, students are generally divided into two groups, okay? The usual comments at the beginning of our lessons go like, oh, it's boring, it's difficult, it's useless, we do not understand it. But literature, as we know, helps understand not only the period in which it was written, okay, but also our society, also the period we are experiencing, our lives. This is the reason why we decided to present in the second part of this webinar some creative or engaging activities that you can use in class to build a bridge, basically, between Jane Austen and her period and our society and our period. We are definitely not going through the summaries of the novels, okay, because we all know them, but we are focusing on some aspects, on some activities that you can do in class with your students, okay? So we start with the first one now. My colleague and friend Leonard spoke about Jane Austen's life, about the historical and social background. And this moment, when you introduce Jane Austen, is a good opportunity, in my opinion, for an activity with book plates, okay? Especially if you work in a liceo artistico, book plates are perfect to blend English literature and art history or art or whatever. Book plates were really common in Jane Austen's time, but they're not so common today. They are not commonly used today. And that makes them, in my opinion, the perfect blend to the perfect activity to blend creativity and history. As you know, book plates are decorative labels stuck in the front of a book. In Jane Austen's times, books were expensive and therefore they were considered super important, okay? And they were often lent to other people. And so it was important also that the owner's name was clearly marked on the book. The book plate was usually pasted inside the front cover and not only included the name, as I said before, the owner's name, but they were real works of art, okay? They often were highly decorative, reflecting the owner's life or commissioned from artists for their creations, okay? So after explaining something about Jane Austen, her life, the period in which she lived, and the context, okay, you can ask your students to create a book plate, okay, that represents the author, her life, her style, if you've spoken about the style as well, and her time in general. You can then create a sort of a gallery walk if you know how it works, okay? You know, in a gallery walk, you put what you have to use on the wall, and you ask students to walk around the class, to consider, to read, to look at the things you have on the wall, and to complete some guiding questions. It's a sort of learning stations in another layout, okay? So you can create, especially if you work in a liceo artistico, you can create a gallery walk with book plates. Now I would like to move to the novel that we all probably teach in class, Pride and Prejudice. In Pride and Prejudice, rumors and gossip serve as a crucial narrative device, okay? Gossip provides useful information. Think about Bingley's departure. Gossip sometimes fuels misunderstanding. Think about the slander against Darcy. Gossip sometimes shapes opinions. Think about Elizabeth's opinion of Darcy. So gossip was super important at the time. And if you think about it, nothing has changed. Rumors and gossip are still part of our world. And I have to say that with social media, rumors and gossip have reached another level, okay? So users are more able to share their thoughts, and this makes social media the perfect environment, unfortunately, for rumors to thrive. So the activity I'm presenting now helps students understand the rapid spread of gossip and the importance of reputation, both in the novel and in real life now, okay? And it helps students understand that by translating basically the gossip in the novel into a modern context, okay? And the occasion, the part of the passage of the novel is the ball, okay? The ball is very important. In your word cloud, in our word cloud at the very beginning, somebody said tea party, balls and parties and whatever. So these social meetings were super important at the time, okay? And it's a special moment in the novel as well, where Darcy and Elizabeth, they finally dance, okay? And dancing during that period was a very important social event as well. Because it was at a ball that ladies would hope to find a husband, okay? So after reading the passage, you can divide students into two groups, okay? And they can ask them to create, okay, to work on a live coverage, okay, live broadcast of a major social event like the one we read in the novel. So we help them translate the passage of the novel into real life, okay? So when you broadcast an event live, you must capture the atmosphere, the dialogues, the judgments, the key interactions. Think about what is going on nowadays, current affairs with President Trump, or think about the US elections, or think about current affairs in general. So when you cover an event live, you need to capture different aspects. So each group, if you divide them into 2 or 3 groups, you choose, each group must create posts from the perspective of at least 3 different characters, okay? You can decide to ask them to work on the 3 different characters in the same group, or you can choose to have 3 separate groups, and each group concentrates on a different character, okay? And they need to create, you choose how many, you choose the number. It can be 5, 6, 7 posts, okay? They can also create some pictures using AI, okay? They must use hashtags, okay, that reflect the characters' inner thoughts, okay? Or the public's perception, or rumors and gossip, or the atmosphere, or judgments, or the key interactions, as I said before. And they create this live coverage, live stream of this social event. Okay, this is a good way to make them understand the atmosphere, both at the time and nowadays. And this is a good starting point for Educazione Civica as well, because we know that generally towards the 3rd year, we cover the topic of web reputation. So what's the link between web reputation and online rumors or social media scandal or rumors in Jane Austen's time? So we can create the perfect background, okay, to work on Educazione Civica as well, to make students reflect that something they post online has always has consequences, okay. One of the problems we generally have as teachers, and I always say that in our webinars because I'm fully aware of this, is that we have no time, okay? We have no time to cover everything. We prepare students for certificates, we have literature, we have grammar, we have Educazione Civica, we have the orientamento, we have everything. So Jane Austen gives the possibility to combine FC preparation with literature, okay? In this case, there are good possibilities with some of the novels she wrote, okay? This activity is a fun way, in my opinion, to plunge into characters' conflicts and to practice email writing or letter writing for FC, the writing task. So you will need 2 lessons, basically, okay? Or you can choose to have homework plus lesson. It depends on the time you have. If you have 2 lessons, you can divide the project into 2 parts. In the first part, okay, you ask students to choose a character and write a short letter to an advice columnist, okay, asking for advice for a major dilemma, okay. For example, I put an example here, Dear Miss Verna, okay, invented the name. Well, I actually took it from a movie I've just seen. My sister has run off with a man, blah, 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 blah. Okay, and you ask students to write this letter according to what you've explained them, okay, for the FCE writing part, okay? So they know how to start a letter, something about the introduction, main body, conclusion, greetings, and so on. Letter or email you choose. In the second lesson, you collect the letters, okay? Or if you want them to write letters at home, it's a piece of homework. Anyway, you collect the letters and you give each group or each student, okay, a letter written by somebody else, okay? And they must write a response to the letter using another letter or email. So once again, they use what you taught them about FC writing task 1. So this is a good way to put together the two things, okay? If you teach higher levels, you can use Pride and Prejudice as the starting point for a debate, okay? It's probably that, and it's, probably your students know how to organize a debate, how to prepare for a debate, but if you need some material, you can check in your LitHub box, okay? All the screenshots provided here are from the new edition of LitHub. But as you can see, there are some activities taken from LitHub and some extra activities. And to be honest, sorry, I forgot to mention it. I will go back a second. In the LitHub box, as I said before, you have a lot of material. Sometimes you also have no prep activities. So it means something that you can print out and bring to class and use in class without any preparation. And in the LitHub box, as you saw in this part, I forgot to mention, you also have the bookshelf. Okay, every month I choose with my colleagues and friends 4 to 5 books. Okay, one book is related to something important happened in that period, to a special event, an anniversary. In this case, it was Jane Austen. Okay, and you have Pride and Prejudice. You can check in your LitHub box. For each book, you have a short summary. Okay, even for the books, you don't have a video. Okay, you have a PDF with, of course, the cover, the title, the author, number of pages, because it's something that our students always want to know. Then you have a short summary. Then you have the reading level. Generally, we try and choose various books for various levels every month. So you generally have something for B1, B2, C1, even A2 if we manage to find something interesting, okay? And you have the themes that your student will deal with while reading that particular book. And in some cases, you have this no prep activity that you can download and use in class without any preparation. With Pride and Prejudice, you have a novel cube, for example, or you have, for example, in September, you had a poem analysis you can use with your students. So if you want to visit your LitHub box and you check the material you have a lot of possibilities, okay, a lot of things to use in class, because we know that we never have time to prepare extra things. So we really wanted to help you dealing with the different things we have to deal with in class. Going back to the debate, if you teach higher levels, you can organize a debate. Online, you have a guide, okay, and you have some videos, you have some documents, you have some PDFs, you have some files that basically will guide you, okay, through the process. How do I organize a debate? How do I start if my students are not used to have a conversation? So some activities easier than the real debate that can lead your class to a final debate. So Pride and Prejudice is perfect to start a cooperative debate or a real debate, okay? You can hold a public debate where students argue for or against the actions of the main characters. You divide students into 2 groups. You have Team Darcy and Team Elizabeth, okay? First of all, you can ask them to find quotes, okay? And you can give them time if you have time in class. Otherwise, you can ask them to work independently at home, okay? You have to prepare for a debate on the actions, okay, of the main characters. When I do it in class, I generally give them the possibility to choose which team they want to belong to. And we generally have boys and girls, okay? But it's up to you. But the most important thing is that they are quite engaged and they want to defend, okay, their positions. You ask them to find specific quotes to support their opinions. You ask them to find specific passages to support their opinions, and then you organize debate. It can be a short one. I would say 30 to 40 minutes are enough for a great debate on Pride and Prejudice. Some moments ago, we said that Jane Austen's themes are universal and timeless. And if you think about prejudice, you can see the point, okay? So Pride and Prejudice, once again, gives the opportunity to speak about prejudice now in our society. So if you have 3 lessons, you will use 3 lessons. Otherwise, you can use 2, as you can read there, lesson 1 or not, okay? You analyze Pride and Prejudice you analyze prejudice in the novel, in the passage you've chosen, or in the passages you've chosen. So nothing different from what we generally do, okay? In the second lesson, you can start by brainstorming contemporary prejudice and forms of discrimination, okay? That basically that mirrored the issues in Pride and Prejudice, okay? And students then can choose one modern issue, okay? And if you work in a Scienze Umane, in a Liceo delle Scienze Umane, you can work together with a human science colleague, and you can organize, you can let students create a survey, okay? They interview other people out of the school or other classmates or schoolmates or teachers or the headmaster on the issue they've chosen, okay? For the others who do not study how to organize a survey, who do not study anything like the things they study in social human science, they can look for news articles or studies or social media examples to highlight that specific issue, okay? For lesson 3 or during your 3rd lesson, you can ask them to create some visual summaries, some posters or a Padlet, a sort of a cooperative activity to highlight one particular issue, one issue they consider really important in our society. And you will see that students are fully aware of what is going on, and they perfectly know what the issues of their generations are, okay? And you will be mesmerized by the things they have to say. And when you give them time to present, okay, the project to the class, I would give them the possibility to ask some questions to their classmates, okay? So that they can plunge deeper in the issues they think are important. You will be really surprised by what they have to say. Of course, as I said before, we often do not have time to cover everything, and sometimes we have to prepare our students for IELTS. So moving to another novel, Sense and Sensibility. As you know, Sense and Sensibility tells the story of the 2 sisters, okay, who the first one who embodies sense, rationality, and so on, and the other who embodies sensibility, passion, romanticism, and whatever. In the end, as you know, there is a sort of a reconciliation, okay, between the sisters' philosophies, okay. This gives the perfect chance to work on the dichotomy duty versus desire, okay? And as you know, in IELTS writing task 2, there's also always an opinion essay to write. So once you covered how to write an opinion essay for IELTS, so you covered the part related to vocabulary, you covered the part related to structures, so introduction, main body, conclusion, and whatever. You can blend the 2 topics. You can blend literature and language preparation for IELTS, and you can give them this prompt, okay? Some people argue that following duty that following duty, whether to family, community, career, is the ultimate measure of a responsible individual. However, others believe that prioritizing personal desires, aspirations, self-fulfillment is essential for true happiness. Okay, to what extent do you agree? Give also examples. It's the classical form of an IELTS writing task too. Okay, and they will have the possibility to revise what you've explained and what they have studied for Sense and Sensibility, and to add their opinions. So it's a good way to blend the two things. Okay. And what about classes who do not like Jane Austen? Okay, sometimes it happens. I have classes in Liceo Scientifico full of boys, okay, just a couple of course. They do not care about Jane Austen generally, okay? So a good way, okay, to blend once again, to make them understand that the themes and the topics covered by Jane Austen are important even nowadays, you can switch to YA, okay? There are a lot of novels, related, inspired by Jane Austen. I have just a couple of them, okay? So in the first one, for example, Pride and Prejudice, you have the same introduction, the same beginning. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single girl of high standing at that academy must be in one to the prom date, okay? Basically, the setting of this novel is a very prestigious academy, okay? And the protagonist, called Lizzie Bennet, okay, is not interested in fashion, in proms, but a guy called Charles Bingley, okay, you see the links, appears on the scene. So it's basically Pride and Prejudice set in a modern day academy, so high school. So your students can empathize, can relate, okay, to the characters, to the main characters. They have a setting that they experience every day because it's a high school. They have dynamics they experience every day, okay? Maybe we have no prompts, okay? But we have first love affairs and whatever. They experience what rumors do to love affairs, especially at the beginning. And so they can better relate to the story and the characters. And then from there, if you read parts of the novel, or if you read the novel, it's not that long, you can switch to the original Pride and Prejudice. The second one, a completely different one, especially for boys, generally boys like this one, okay, speaks about a girl who is really proud, okay, she's called Benitez, okay, she's really proud of her Afro-Latin origins, okay, but pride is not enough to save her neighborhood, okay, so that's the problem. So we have a completely different setting, we have completely different issues, okay, we always have Pride and Prejudice, but related to multiculturalism. So this is a good one to work on multicultural topics, to work on cultural diversity, to work on strengths and weaknesses of a multicultural society. And in some classes, it works, okay? Especially in classes where we have a lot of cultures mixed together, okay? And then once again, from there, you can move to the original one. Well, so there are so many things we can say about Jane Austen, but in the last 10 to 15 minutes of this webinar, I would like you to ask or to share what you do in class with Jane Austen, because I think she's the perfect author, together with some other VIPs. She's the perfect author to blend contemporary issues with Regency period or the Romantic period in general.
Intanto grazie Silvia, sono arrivati nel frattempo i soliti tantissimi complimenti per il vostro intervento e mentre le professoresse e i professori collegati magari si prendono un po' di tempo per rispondere alla tua domanda, io invece ne approfitto per rispondere a un altro paio di domande che sono arrivate nel frattempo e che sono invece di natura un po' più tecnica. All'inizio proprio della registrazione qualcuno chiedeva se è possibile vedere questo video, questo evento diciamo in differita. Assolutamente sì, per tutti quelli che si sono iscritti il video registrazione del webinar sarà disponibile sempre sul canale YouTube da cui lo state guardando adesso. Quindi avrete l'opportunità, se volete, anche di rivedere alcuni momenti, di approfondire certi passaggi o semplicemente se è venuta meno la connessione, cosa che purtroppo succede spesso, insomma, ecco, potete recuperare tutto. Quindi rassicuro le persone che si sono collegate, magari anche dopo, che diamo a loro disposizione anche questa possibilità. Invece un'altra domanda che era arrivata appunto un po' più avanti è where can we find LitHub Box? Allora, questo è un punto a cui io e la professoressa Chini teniamo molto, come forse qualcuno di voi sa. LitHub Box appunto come ha ampiamente spiegato la professoressa prima è proprio come dire un bellissimo archivio che noi abbiamo messo a disposizione sul sito di Rizzoli Education, quindi vi basta collegarvi al sito, più nello specifico ovviamente selezionate l'ordine di scuola secondaria di secondo grado, perché ovviamente diciamo ci muoviamo in quell'ambito lì, e trovate subito nell'area lingue questa bella schermata gigante LitHub Box, che è quella riprodotta nelle slide, che vi rimanda a questo drive condiviso con voi. Quindi come molti di voi sanno, la professoressa Chini è autrice della nuova edizione di LitHub fresca di stampa. Spero che alcune di voi, non dico l'abbiano adottato, ma almeno abbiano avuto modo di sfogliarlo, di vederlo. Oltre al cartaceo, che è sempre supporto, come dire, fondamentale per la didattica, abbiamo avuto quest'idea appunto di aggiungere questo spazio online che è in costante aggiornamento proprio per la sua natura, e quindi all'interno troverete di mese in mese delle risorse nuove di vario genere. Possono essere appunto i video bookshelf di cui parlava la professoressa Chini prima, ma anche articoli, news, spunti su cui potete lavorare, attività da proporre in classe. È veramente diciamo un archivio in continuo aggiornamento, quindi vi invito, per chi di voi non l'avesse già fatto, a guardare e a dare un'occhiata, ecco, perché può essere molto interessante. Vi ricordo quindi il sito di Rizzoli Education, area lingue, LitHub Box, è molto facile da trovare. Nel frattempo Silvia...
interrompo un secondo, ho visto un commento, volevo dire che questi materiali che io ho chiamato no prep activity sono una novità di quest'anno, abbiamo iniziato nel mese di settembre. Li trovate all'interno del bookshelf, dove trovate il video e i PDF dei libri, come vi dicevo prima. Trovate anche questa no prep activity, una diversa per ogni mese, ed è veramente un'attività che voi potete semplicemente stampare e fare in classe senza nessun'altra preparazione. Tendenzialmente cerchiamo di fare cose che siano adattabili a diverse epoche storiche, diversi autori. Quindi per esempio il Novel Cube che vi dicevo è una cosa molto carina per affrontare il romanzo quando si fa leggere nella sua interezza, ma anche per lavorare magari con livelli più bassi sui romanzi che diamo durante le vacanze, eccetera, eccetera. Ed è veramente una cosa che si può stampare e portare in classe. Stessa cosa per il materiale di settembre, che è una guida, una poem analysis, è una guida che si può applicare a qualsiasi tipo di poesia. Quindi questi materiali, quello poi del mese prossimo sarà particolarmente adattabile a Jane Austen, ma non vi svelo nulla, e sono davvero cose che abbiamo pensato per facilitare il lavoro in classe, perché sappiamo bene che il tempo è sempre tiranno.
Esatto, confermo tutto. Nel frattempo appunto qualcuno scrive adottato, sempre piacevole da leggere. Silvia, non so se hai avuto modo di leggere le esperienze che hanno riportato le colleghe, magari se vuoi commentare penso che farà loro piacere.
Ho letto di una collega che associa educazione civica con l'educazione delle donne al tempo di Jane Austen e adesso. È una bellissima idea, io non l'ho menzionata perché ovviamente non si può menzionare tutto. È molto bello vedere come si è evoluto nel tempo e come purtroppo ancora adesso invece ci sono luoghi dove questa possibilità è ancora preclusa alle donne, quindi sicuramente è un'altra finestra sull'educazione civica. Ho visto anche di colleghi che fanno vedere film per introdurre la vita di Jane Austen, sempre molto apprezzati dai ragazzi. E ho visto un commento di una collega che propone di riprendere il titolo del testo basato sulla sfida ripetere il titolo, scusate, si chiama Pride, sulla sfida multiculturale, ma avevo letto male, ma è comunque un'idea molto interessante di riprendere questo Pride and Prejudice sempre in un'ottica di educazione civica, ma anche di orientamento che adesso dobbiamo includere nelle nostre lezioni. Quindi io di cosa sono orgoglioso di me, ok? E io come mi pongo verso gli altri. Quindi a partire dal romanzo o anche da quel YA che vi ho presentato, fare una sorta di indagine su noi stessi, ecco. E poi ho letto di colleghi che fanno leggere, fanno comparare le vite di diversi autori e poi i writing style. Il mio collega Leonard ha parlato di questo stile dell'ironia e anche molti di voi l'hanno scritto nel word cloud all'inizio. Sicuramente è un altro punto di forza, cioè se analizziamo il modo di scrivere di Jane Austen possiamo passarci lezioni intere a vedere come lei ha utilizzato l'ironia per descrivere la sua società, come magari autori contemporanei utilizzano l'ironia, passando magari a un qualcosa di diverso come magari le vignette satiriche, piuttosto che c'è tutte le possibilità e anche un'apertura ulteriore su educazione civica, no? Quindi tutte le varie possibilità che ci sono state nel passato e ci sono adesso per criticare la nostra società. Se vogliamo fare proprio un volo pindarico, lo faceva già Swift criticando nei suoi viaggi di Gulliver, e quindi possiamo fare veramente dei comparison tra le epoche storiche. Poi una era satira, l'altra ironia, quindi bisogna un po', come si dice, bisogna un po' definire i confini, però sicuramente ci sono tanti modi, anche che i nostri ragazzi vedono tutti i giorni e magari non se ne accorgono neanche, perché quando per esempio parliamo di satira e io faccio vedere dei pezzetti di Shrek, tutti si meravigliano, sono davanti ai nostri occhi come le vignette che abbiamo sui giornali, sui quotidiani tutti i giorni, quindi sicuramente metterli di fronte a tutte queste possibilità di criticare la società in cui viviamo e gli aspetti che non vanno della società in cui viviamo è un grosso aiuto che ci dà Jane Austen in questo caso. L'ultima collega che ha scritto che focus on the institution of marriage, come è cambiato nel tempo, certo. C'è una pagina molto interessante nella nuova edizione di LitHub che appunto mette a confronto matrimoni per dovere e matrimoni per amore, ecco. Quindi ci sono quelle pagine verdi che sono il critical thinking, dove noi cerchiamo di aiutare i nostri ragazzi proprio a pensarci un po' su, ecco, non solo a leggere e dire va bene, l'ho fatto. Questa è una bellissima idea che è arrivata. Si potrebbe fare un brainstorming sui pregiudizi passati e attuali, certo. Un po' è nella scia di quel progetto che vi ho presentato, di quella proposta di attività, cioè adesso va bene il pregiudizio nel romanzo e adesso cos'è la cosa che sento più importante a livello di pregiudizio nella mia comunità. Non serve pensare a chissà cosa, si può chiedere ai ragazzi semplicemente nella propria scuola, perché purtroppo lo sappiamo benissimo, le dinamiche di classe molto spesso purtroppo ci aiutano a parlare di pregiudizio, ecco, e quindi anche una self-reflection su quello che succede nella mia comunità, che non sarà mai quella della società altolocata dove si va al ballo per trovare marito o moglie, ma nella mia comunità ci sono più o meno gli stessi problemi, quindi cominciare a riflettere sulla nostra piccola cerchia, questo altro che educazione civica, cioè ci aiuta veramente a riportare Jane Austen proprio nella vita quotidiana, ecco.
Io approfitto invece per rispondere a una domanda che è appena arrivata. Possiamo avere le slide di questa conferenza? Assolutamente sì, saranno a vostra disposizione. Aspettate giusto un giorno, 24 ore, il tempo di lavorarle e caricarle, ma saranno disponibili nella pagina del sito da cui avete effettuato l'iscrizione all'evento, quindi assolutamente sì. Bene, se non ci sono altre domande o richieste, io direi che siamo giunte al termine di questo incontro. Ringrazio tantissimo il professor Leonard O'Shea che appunto ha contribuito a questo evento online. Ringrazio ovviamente la professoressa Silvia Chini. Qualcuno chiede qui, non riesco a individuare le risorse di cui la professoressa parlava. LitHub Box? Immagino di sì. Vedo se riesco ad accedere alla chat e lo condivido, penso possa essere utile per tutti.
Se lo scrivete su Google viene fuori.
Infatti, purtroppo non mi fa, no, purtroppo non mi fa accedere alla chat YouTube, non posso farlo da qui, non so se qualcuno può ok, arriva il supporto tecnico, quindi dovrebbe arrivarvi subito il link, così potete accedere direttamente. Ringraziamo Andrea che dietro le quinte ci aiuta e monitora tutto. Adesso eccolo qui,
Eccolo.
vedrete il nostro link, così potete accedere tutti. Io vi ringrazio ancora una volta Silvia Chini e Leonard O'Shea e vi do appuntamento al prossimo incontro di Le Lingue Live. Grazie e buona serata.
Arrivederci.
Good evening.